Surendra, can you now see it? It should be working now. Because I started a new stream and it's very possible that it is now because from my end it has says okay. Is it working now? So now the question is how many people are there? Okay, all right. Well, I think what I will do is to carry on with even the fewer number of people and perhaps make it short so that if we at least complete it for later viewing, so that we don't leave it hanging. So let me go on with it. So I think the point where I got broken off, as Surendra was saying, was the example of the child for doing namaste and so on. And so I think that the point there is that we first have to go through the motions of understanding the relationship between Ishvara, the world, and myself, and go through the motions of it, and eventually I will get it. So that's the whole idea. So what the next thing we were talking about was the understanding of Ishvara, understanding the Devata. So to mimic myself to have the same qualities as Ishvara, which is the final Devata that I want, I must understand how Ishvara is viewing the whole world. And I need to view the whole world the same way. And only then I can hope to be like Ishvara. And I am already like Ishvara, I just deny it. And so I have to work on my denial. That's all I have to do. And so, that being the case, I need to understand how Ishvara's attitude towards his own creation is. And really speaking, I have to have the same attitude towards my creation. I also have a creation. And the creation is that I view the world in a certain way, that it is powerful, it is antagonistic, not always in congruence with me. All of those kinds of things I have to do. But then I have to see how the world is just a body of Ishvara. It is in fact the very blessing of Ishvara. This is something unique to Vedanta. And none of the other spiritual paths really go through this, where the nimitta karana and the Upadana Karana. So Nimitta Karana means the creator, the intelligence, and the Upadana Karana means the creation, is all the same person, not two people. So therefore, we can now see Chandrama Manaso Jataha. So Chandrama is the creation of the mind of Ishvara. And then the mind is something that we need to understand why it is so important for me to work on my mind. Because, in fact, I was talking about this when I got broken off. I didn't know this. I'm now repeating myself, but you have not heard this, so I'm just giving you now for the first time. This is an important thing for us to see, that the Atma is not opposed to freedom, because it is freedom. It is independence. So what is opposed to freedom is the mind. And because I am totally identified with the mind, therefore what I need to work on, I have nothing to do with the Atma, because that's me. But what I have to do is to educate my mind. An uneducated mind gets into problems, and an educated mind becomes the solution. Swami Dayananda used to say, you are the problem, you are the solution. So what that means is that I need to understand how Ishvara views the creation. And so Chandrama Manaso Jataha, the mind of Ishvara, is fully accepting and fully gracious towards the world. It's Ananda Swarupa. He doesn't think there's any problem with the world. Everything is exactly the way it should be. And a sample of that, so that is what is called Adhyatmika Jnanam. Adhyatmika Jnanam, where it is the internal organ of Ishvara, so to speak, through the Maya Shakti, which is the very mind of Ishvara, is now presented to us in the form of a moon. And how is that connection done? Because the moon is Anandakaraha. No one gets Anananda. No one gets any problems in viewing the moon. No possible. It is nothing but pleasantness. And so therefore it's the creation of the mind of Ishvara, and I have to develop a mind like that, where my mind is not creating creating problems for me, but in fact it is capable of the very pleasantness of Ishvara. So this is one aspect of it. Then we also saw that I have to wrap it up a little more quickly because we have lost some time. Then the next thing is Chakshoho Suryo Ajayata. So this one it meant was that in Chakshuhu, this is really a very interesting and important point. There is a difference between a camera and the eye. The difference is that in the eye, the Chaitanya Vastu is operating. The conscious person is operating in the eye. In the case of camera, there is no consciousness in the camera. But in the eye, there is a consciousness. So the consciousness of Ishvara is resulting in a devata, a limited devata called Surya, the sun, S-U-N. And so the qualities of the I of Ishvara have been given to the Surya. How? Because the Surya does not light up the whole world as an inert person, but as a conscious person. That consciousness is borrowed from Ishvara, of course. There's only one source of consciousness. And this one source of consciousness is given to everyone, Surya as well as you and I. But here, the very Devata called Surya is a thoughtful Devata that really provides us with all the ingredients of life, namely heat and light in a very precise manner, exactly what we need to have. And so it's very conscious of exactly what Ishvara wants it to do. It is Ishvara's creation. And so behind that is blessing for us. I need to do exactly the same thing. I need to view through my mind and my eyes and not fight with anything, but to have a sense of congruence and blessing with everybody. And so therefore, Chakshaho means Ishvara's, from the eyes of the Ishvara, Surya is born. And I need to reciprocate that between the two of us. And then we saw, I'm going to now, you can see the points number 80 and 81. I won't talk into that. So let me now wrap up by going to the point number 82, where this mantra that we have been talking about provides, and I say prides, but it should say provides. It's a typo on my part. It provides a sequence of the upasana. So the whole thing, a whole mantra is to invoke a sense of bhakti and upasana. That's what it is meant for. Because the upasana is, may I develop the same qualities that you have. That's the upasana. So here, Swami Maheshananji says that there is a krama, there is a sequence of this upasana. The most difficult one is to educate the mind. Difficult means that's the final stage in some way. So it is going from the final stages. If you don't have this, then this. If you don't have that, then this. If you don't have that, then this. This is the sequence. So the first one is really what our eventual goal is, which is to have a mind which is as educated and as pure as that of the Ishvara. So that is the first one. So Chandrama Manaso Jataha. Then the less difficult, if you cannot do that, supposing you say, well, I've tried and I'm not sure that I have that kind of a mind. Okay, no problems. Then the next thing you should do is to develop an appreciating bhavana towards the world, just like we do now. As we saw that when we see a woman and I see her as my mother, it's the same drishti. So the camera does not see the woman as a mother, but a person who is conscious can see the woman as a mother. Same woman. And so this is the bhavana that I have to develop towards the whole world. And so that is the next important thing to do. through prayers, through through temples, by doing, by thinking about it, all those kinds of things. Not a simple thing, but we have to do all of that. There's the next thing. Supposing you say that I can't even do that. I have tried, that I don't have that bhavana. I'm still upset by the whole world, and I don't seem to focus my mind on this bhavana. Then the next less difficult thing to do is to pranat vayu jayate. So here pranat vayu rajayata means may I resort to pranayama. And in all of these steps, what I need to do is not to look at things as a physical manifestation. This is the important thing, I think. So, for example, I should not look upon the sun as just a physical manifestation. Of course it is a physical manifestation. We're not saying it is not. But the drishti that I have, the vision that I have, is to go beyond that. So when I welcome the sun in the morning, I should begin to appreciate what it's doing for us, how precise it is. It is the very messenger of Ishvara. So, same thing with the world. I should have a bhavana that this is the body of Ishvara. Everything is sacred. And so that is the bhavana for number 2. In the third one, when I do pranayama, I should not just do a physical manifestation of vayu. Of course it is that, no doubt about it. But in viewing pranayama, I should infuse it with an understanding that this is a blessing of Ishvara towards me. Which it is. Not as though I'm pretending. It is very much a blessing, but I didn't appreciate it. So the pranayama should be done where I begin to see that you look at the problems with oxygen these days in India. And so, that's a special problem. But the very presence of oxygen is the one that is sustaining us. And that oxygen, when it goes inside of me, becomes my prana. So this give and take, and then I expel the carbon dioxide. And so when I'm doing pranayama, I should be very cognizant of the presence of Ishvara. So, that very famous mantra, Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi. Beautiful. That's exactly what it is saying. I don't have to look for where is Ishvara. My prana is the blessing of Ishvara. It is the body of the Ishvara. The vayu, the oxygen, is the presence of Ishvara. And so I should really practice pranayama with this kind of an attitude as number 3. Supposing you say, I can't even do that. I can't do pranayama. Then it is said that the next thing that you should do is to learn Vedic mantras with swaras. With the Anudatta, Udatta, Swarita, do it the right way. And if you do it the right way, something funny happens. Something important, not just funny, but something important happens. The ucharanam, the very chanting of the mantras accurately with the mantras calms my mind down and makes it more amenable to go to numbers from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1. So this is why the learning of mantras is so important. In the morning, if you were to just get up and just do some, first you have to learn the right swaras, but then hopefully you will remember some of it by heart, and then you enjoy with your eyes closed the very chanting of the mantras, whether it is Purusha Suktam, as we have said, this is why we chanted it. Om Sahasra Shirsha Purusha Sahasrakshas Sahasrapat Sabhumim Vishvato Vritva Atyatishtat Dashangulam Purusha Evedagam Sarvam Yat Bhutan Yat Chabhavyam Utamritatvasya Yadannena Tirohati Etavanasya Mahima Ato Jaya Gashchapurushaha. I Kira, just do this. Or you can do Rudram. Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya Namaste Rudramanyava Uto Taishabe Namaha Namaste Dhanvane Bahubhyam Utate Namaha Yata Ishu Shivatama Shivam Babhuvate Dhanu Shiva Sharavyaya Tavatayan. You do that. And then if you learn to do chanting in the morning, what you'll find is your mind gets more disciplined and amenable to the other pranayamas and others, so on and so forth. So this is the essence of this last section of the Purusha Suktam, which is the last mantra that we saw, number 12. And so this one does two things. It gives you the Swarupa of Ishvara, and in doing so enables us to learn the upasana towards understanding the Swarupa of Ishvara. And why is that? Because if I want to be totally free, the only way to do that is to have the same gunas as Ishvara. So this is what is called Jiveshvara Aikyam. Jiva and Ishvara are become one and the same. The whole circle gets complete. So with that, I think we have concluded this text and with the revision. And so with that, with the prayer, let's just wrap it up, and then we'll see next time. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. All right, so with that, the text is over, and we will start a new series of classes from next Tuesday called the Vedantic Insights. And I think I've sent you some information about it. I think just as a reminder, I am going to stop the roster for Purusha Suktam and build a new roster for Vedantic Insights. So if you are interested, please write to me. You already have done so, but if you haven't done so and you still want to participate, please do send me an email. I mean, you don't have to. You can just tune in to the class, but it'd be nice to have a roster that I can send some bulletins to. That's the only thing. So we will do that. We have to look into this, why all these interruptions are happening. I'll talk to both Raj and Chandra to see what changes, if any, that we need to make on my Wi-Fi system. uh, and be really, hopefully we can solve it. This is not good. So with that, I take your leave, and let me see if how many of you are still there, and if you have any questions. Otherwise, hopefully then we will see you next week. So Shanti Kumar, your question, your observation that it's a very disturbing thing about the corona problem in India, and we need to get back to calmness in your suggestion. So I mean, there's nothing. I think we all know. I would just say that that we should do anything we can personally to help. But at the same time, not be disturbed, because this has a much wider significance to what is happening. And there is nothing you and I individually can do other than what we can individually help, either giving money or to work in. So I think to work in next to a hospital or whatever that we need to do. So all of this can be summarized in that I think we should be busy helping, but not be disturbed about it. Because the disturbance means that something is not right. There is no one in charge, something has gone wrong. That's not the case. This is all a larger canvas. And Ishvara is very involved with this. And if he thinks that this has to be done in a very painful manner, then so be it. So this is what is called Bhishaka. Bhishaka is the overall doctor. And so this is the very theme of Rudram, that the doctor is giving us a lot of pain for a reason. And it means that some lives have to be terminated, new lives have to come about, families are have a problem, this, that, or the other. Just to give you a personal thing, my sister and her husband both got COVID, and my sister actually went to the hospital, but she's back now, and she's okay. I think I talked to her, but her husband is not, and he passed away in the hospital a couple of days ago, a couple of nights ago. But he died peacefully in his sleep, and he was due to, because of his many problems, health problems. And so it was Ishvara's wish that this gentleman should now change the scenes. So there is a larger canvas on which all this painting is going on. And so the point is that I think we should help as much we can. That doesn't mean that we just sit on our hands and do nothing. Later on today, Raj has just sent me a email for sending out a bulletin to help. And I'm going to do that after this class. So we should individually do what we can. But the disturbance doesn't really help anything. It doesn't help. It doesn't help either you or anybody else. There was I'll just give one thing. There was a friend of mine, a friend of ours, my wife and I, whose son, who was relatively young, in his mid-40s, that developed a very late stage colon cancer, which had now spread to the rest of his body. And this has been going on for 3 years, to a point that they were really losing hope some time ago. And so our friend called me one day about 3 or 4 months ago, and she was really crying on the phone and said, I am really disturbed that we are losing our son, and what should I do about it? So, I thought about this, and I said to her that there is a difference between love and obsession and possession. There's a difference between love and possession, obsession. The difference is that the love is for the other person, but the disturbance is for me, not for the other person. Because I feel bad about it, and I don't want to feel bad about it, so therefore please somebody help me. This is the issue. So really the thing to do is that if you should feel bad about not being able to help to your own extent. But this is a larger problem. If everybody helps to a certain extent, I think it will help, no doubt about it. But to go beyond that and say I'm very disturbed is really talking about one's own insecurity, not the help that I give it to anyone else. I would say something like that. That's the distinction that I think we need to make. And I think that we should, in fact, this is the lesson of Rudram. Rudram, when we studied this several years ago, this was we went through so many examples of this, that really we should understand that the doctor requires this very serious operation to be done with a lot of dukkha. He knows what he's talking about. Otherwise, we will not get any better. And so we have to change our methods, we have to reform, whatever. I won't go into all of that. So I think in that sense, the disturbance is not really that helpful. Disturbance is helpful to the extent that it should urge me to do some action. And if the action is inadequate, then I should accept the inadequacy of limited beings and let Ishvara take care of it. Something like that. Very good. I'm happy that you found something really useful to contemplate on in Purusha Suktam. And when I took it up, I was hoping that it would be I learned a lot myself in just thinking about it. Because, a lot of this is committing it to your mind so that it becomes natural in your own thinking. This is what it's all about, really. The same thing on Shravanam and Mananam. I've been giving that recent example that really you learn a language and you're now focused on learning the language. But once you really master a language, you don't think about what am I saying, am I verbs, then you utilize it for living. And so similarly here also, learning the language of Vedanta, we are really focused on it. Ishvara, world, and Yajna Purusha, and this, that, or the other. But if I just keep thinking about it and being very familiar with it, then my vision about life becomes very personally useful to me. And so I am not just saying I'm just teaching it to you, I'm learning myself as we go through this. Anyway, it turned out good. I'm happy about it. And anyway, it's over. And thank you all for your participation. And we look forward to the next chapter. Hopefully some interesting new ideas about how we would approach the treatment of Vedantic insights. Time will tell. And all we can do is to try. Okay. Hari Om. Om.